This weekend in St. Louis was an absolute bloodbath, but it was overshadowed by the Ben Johns trade. It was the most impactful regular season event so far, with huge shakeups to the playoff picture. But before the event, we received a couple of really important updates. First, we had the trade of Noe for Craig. Noe is joining the Fives and taking my place in the starting lineup. I covered that earlier this week, but if you missed that video, I'll link it in the description. MLP also announced that the Challenger winner would be promoted to Premier for 2026, which raises the stakes in Challenger considerably. Before, it was just kind of an exhibition. Now, I think we should also demote the last place team in Premier to Challenger, but that's not going to happen, despite how hard the Hustlers and the Hogs are trying. Finally, MLP extended the trade deadline for the second time, and it now closes today at noon, July 21st, if you're watching this another time. This is insane to me because the season is almost entirely over. In fact, Columbus and Brooklyn are done. Imagine if they had missed the playoffs. They could have simply offloaded their best players to a playoff team, which could totally throw off the balance of the league. But that would never happen, right? Really quickly, the winners of last week's unreleased Pro XR Jolt paddles are Trang Bang on Instagram and Adam Jones on YouTube, so thanks for everybody who entered. Back to St. Louis. Thursday was pretty uneventful. AJ was still filling in for Deckel on Brooklyn, and he helped them get a regulation win over Chicago. Chicago took out Atlanta in a dream breaker, and the Shock swept the Bouncers as well. When somebody tells you that pickleball isn't a real sport, send them this point. These guys hit 14 shots in 4.88 seconds. That's nearly 3 shots per second. Absolutely unreal. On Friday, we had some solid matchups. Brooklyn took their turn beating up on the Bouncers in a sweep. Chicago took the women's doubles match against the Sliders before falling in regulation. Jackie Kawamoto hit a disgusting topspin lob winner to walk off against the best women's team in MLP, Georgia and Tyra. I mean, take a look at this. It's a thing of beauty. And if you're just here for the recap videos, that's cool and I appreciate you, but check out some of the instructional stuff that I do as well. I'm going to be breaking down how to hit offensive lobs just like this, so make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. Dallas was able to clutch up and win the next 3 matchups. The St. Louis women fell to Leia and Paris, but they completed the reverse sweep to win in regulation over Columbus. Then Saturday happened, and a couple of the biggest matches of the entire year were swept under the radar by the Ben Johns trade. If you're watching this video, I'm assuming you already saw the Ben Johns trade video, but if not, I'll also link that down in the description at the end of this video. I'm not going to go into much detail here, but I basically described the fishy circumstances around moving the trade deadline, the trade itself, whether the Mad Drops are MLP's first super team, and one big chemistry concern that I have for them, and finally, whether this is good for the league or not. So check out that video if you haven't already. This is also normally where I'd plug a sponsor or do a giveaway, but I got nothing for this one, so I want you guys to do me a favor. Send this to one buddy that you play with, and my goal with these videos is to keep people informed about the happenings in Pro Pickleball, but to also grow interest in Pro Pickleball generally. And if you send your buddies videos like these, maybe they won't give you blank stares when you start talking to them about Wang Yun's contract termination or Ben Johns' new team. I feel like that's a win-win. On Saturday, we had the craziest regular season day of the year. Before Saturday, the Flash had won 20 matches in a row. They came back from 1 match down against us in the finals last year, won their first 15 matches of the 2025 season, and won 3 matches to take the mid-season title, all while only going to 2 Dream Breakers this entire season. Columbus ended the Flash's huge win streak with a Dream Breaker win. Paris and Leia took the women's doubles match 11-5. The Flash won men's 11-9 over Andre and CJ. J-Dub and Georgia got Flash 1 match away from winning, but Andre and Paris beat Augie and Tyra to force a Dream Breaker where they ended up winning 21-16. After the match, Paris called out the dangerous conditions of the rollout courts.
I really hope Tyra's ankle is okay. This is a great facility and one of the best we've been at, but these courts are dangerous for us to play on. Every time there's a player, they hurt themselves on these courts, so we got to do better moving forward.
And she's not wrong. At this point, we can't just pretend that it's a coincidence that so many players have gotten injured on these courts. The bubbles and ridges catch players' feet, which lead to unnatural twists and turns, and it's honestly a miracle that we haven't seen any injuries that have ended entire seasons yet. I'm personally a big fan of the rollout courts because they allow us to play in awesome venues like Chaifetz Arena and Central Park, but are the risks outweighing the rewards? Anyway, the Sliders have slid under the radar this year. See what I did there? But it's true. Heading into the season, I would have said that Leia and Paris would be the weak line on that team and that Andre and CJ were the best men's team in MLP. But Leia and Paris have been on tear lately, being the Shock, the Flash twice, and the Brooklyn Pickleball team. What's scary about the Sliders is the fact that Andre and CJ have been losing to most of the top tier men's doubles teams lately. Both mixed lines are solid, and the Sliders have arguably the best Dreambreaker team in the league. If the women can keep their momentum and the men can figure it out, the Sliders are a championship contender. Well, the Flash's day didn't get any better. In fact, this is a pretty accurate description of the Flash's day on Saturday. The St. Louis women had been struggling with beatdown losses to Chicago, Columbus, and Dallas recently, set the tone with an 11-3 win in women's. The Shop men cruised 11-1. J-Dub and Georgia narrowly escaped 13-11 over Kate and Gabe, but Anna and Hayden clinched a regulation win with huge implications. First, Hayden Patriquin took over Georgia Johnson's spot atop the player leaderboard, and second, the Shock took over the #1 team in the league spot on a points per match basis. The Shock's women's doubles teams struggled, though, against Brooklyn, but they were able to do a reverse sweep and win 3-1. Dallas's men dropped to Atlanta, but they won 3-1. In the second to last match of the day, Brooklyn played Columbus. These two teams were neck and neck in the standings. Brooklyn had 53 points and Columbus had 52. So in the last match of their seasons, whoever won this matchup would finish above the other in the standings. Brooklyn, still without Declan Barr, ended up beating Columbus 3-1, putting them in the 4th spot in the team rankings. And in the last match of the day, Dallas took out the Slice in a Dreambreaker. But just getting to a Dreambreaker was pretty big for the Slice's playoff hopes. As it stands with 2 events left in the regular season, the Shocker in first place, followed closely by Dallas. There's a decent gap between Dallas and the Fives, and another gap between the Fives and Brooklyn. Brooklyn's huge win over the Sliders keeps them in 4th place at 2.24 points per match. Now, my guess is that Brooklyn may have enough points to keep the #4 seed, but the Sliders are probably going to be surpassed by the new Mad Drops. Texas and Orlando are comfortably in the 7 and 8 spots. Utah, especially with the addition of Etta this week, will most likely claim that 9th seed. The final playoff spot is between the Miami Football Club, the Carolina Hogs, and the Chicago Slice. I think the Slice control their own destiny here. The Hogs traded away Ben, Etta, and Roscoe Bellamy this week, so I doubt they'll win any of their remaining 6 matches unless they play the Hustlers. Miami also tore apart their roster by trading away Noe Cleef to us and moving Millie Rain to Orlando, so they probably won't be putting up too many points either. Now, the Slice have opportunities for points against Texas, Miami, Utah, Jersey, and Orlando to try and sneak into the 10 spot, which would be incredibly impressive for a team that started the year without a single player. If you remember from the offseason, the Slice team that was promoted from last year's Challenger League was Jack Monroe, Brennan Long, Megan Fudge, and Allison Harris. None of them signed UPA deals in the offseason, so kudos to the Slice. It would have been easy for them to have a rebuilding year like the Hustlers or the Hogs, but they decided to play to win, and I hope that they're able to make the playoffs and get rewarded for that. Anyway, the trade deadline ends today unless they decide to move it again. Wow, that was too soon. My bad. Anyway, next up is Dallas MLP, so stay tuned for updates. This is going to be an absolutely insane end to this season, guys. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. Tell your friends. Share this video with them. Let's grow pro pickleball.